the Real Hustle Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Chris Kibling. Real hustle, real people, real results. You can help support our podcast by checking out our Real Hustle gear. We have t-shirts, hoodies, tank tops, hats, and more. The Real Hustle gear is great for the gym or even a night out on the town. Let everyone know that you are a real hustler willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done. You can check us out right now at realhustle.com, and right now we're offering all of our listeners 10% off when you use the promo code podcast at checkout. Once again, that is podcast to receive 10% off your entire order. realhustle.com.
Hey everybody, Chris Kibling here over at the Real Hustle Podcast. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and we have a very special guest in our house today. We have Jonathan Cortez in here. Hey Jonathan, how are you today?
Doing well, sir. How are you, Chris?
Good. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be here.
My pleasure.
All right, so let's get kind of started. So you're a musician, singer. What else? Is any other stuff in there as far as what you do? I know you're a musician, but give me a little bit more about you and kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll give you what we call the elevator pitch.
There you go.
So, for me, it's a little weird because I can't just say, oh, I'm a guitarist or I'm a DJ. I gave myself a bit of a nickname of sorts. It kind of came organically, but I'm a jack of all trades, and literally that wound up becoming my stage name because people would see me perform and they would say, man, you're a jack of all trades. You DJ, you sing, you dance, you're a producer, you MC, so it just kind of stuck, and it wound up becoming something I wanted to put on my business card anyway, because it's actually my initials if I drop the K.
Okay.
So Jonathan Andrew Cortez, J.A.C. So jack of all trades.
I like it.
But yes, I'm a vocalist. I can sing over 1,000 songs in 3 languages: English, Italian, Spanish. I am a DJ. I do play a little bit of guitar, though I wouldn't say I'm good enough to feel like I could put that on the business card. I do that for fun on the side. I let my professional guitarist do that. But I do like to meddle, with those kind of things. I write, I produce. I'm actually fixing up my studio right now, therefore this facade behind me, because it's all in flux right now. But I MC, I DJ. And, that kind of happened. Just to elaborate, it kind of happened by accident, the whole DJ element. I never wanted to give myself a DJ name, though, because I think it would be misleading. I think that it's fabulous to say I'm a DJ, and I know some fantastic DJs, real turntablists, like a DJ's DJ. But for me, I think just pigeonholing myself as a DJ would be misleading, because I'm an entertainer. I do so many other things. So I'm something in between, like a band and a great DJ. But, when I started, I've been singing my whole life. I got to say that. I've been singing my whole life. But when I started doing it semi-professionally, we should say, I realized that when I needed to take a break for the voice, after an hour and a half, you need to give yourself a little vocal rest.
Right.
You'd imagine doing push-ups for an hour and a half. You got to stop for a minute. I don't care who you are. The vocal cords need a rest. So I noticed when I'd stop, though, it would just suck the life out of any party I was at. So very quickly, I realized I needed to implement something else that would allow for the party to keep going. And that's when I started playing tracks. And, at that point, that's all it was. I wouldn't call it DJing. It was like iPod DJing. I'd play a song, play another one. But then I started delving into the DJ world and realizing how fascinating that was. And it was only then, I want to say this was 2006, 2007. I realized, holy cow, why wasn't I doing this sooner? Because I love music. It is part of who I am. Why didn't I pick up this DJing thing earlier? I quickly just gravitated to that culture and got me the turntables and the whole nine. I already knew music very well, which was a leg up for me in the process.
Okay.
But learning how to beat match and mix songs in a way that sounded good on a dance floor. All those kind of things had to come with time. And, fake it till you make it, right? So I would be singing at events, and then I'd play some party songs, and it was like, oh, he's a DJ as well. And yeah, I let that ride, but I just kept on getting that, learning, getting those 10,000 hours in,
Right.
So that came with time. And what I found was that I really kind of paved my own way in creating a very unique performance. And I've never myself seen anybody else that does it. I'm sure there is. And if I could find them, I'd hire them. I think a lot of people are looking for something just like that, something that's unique, fun, that can still be classy, right. During a dinner portion of an evening. Very few DJs are going to pick up a microphone and sing Andrea Bocelli, So
I want to kind of just back up a little bit because I want people to know how I got to know you. And so, so we were at a wedding, Shannon and Ryan McBride's wedding that you were doing. And I'm sitting there and I'm there with my wife and a few of our friends. And like, I'm just sitting there and I'm listening to you and I'm like, that dude's voice is incredible. I was like, because you were sitting there, you would start singing and you would sing one song to another song and it sounded just like we were listening to the actual artist singing it. And I was like, he is awesome. And then you did go into the DJ part. I'm sitting there, I was like, and I talked to my wife, I was like, I've got to get him on our show. I was like, we got to get him on the podcast. I was like, I'm sitting there, I'm listening to him. I was like, all right, and I think you were getting ready to go grab food or something. I was like, let me go grab him real quick and see and talk to him. And I was just like, because we were so blown away by how well you sang and how well you were able to do the DJ part. And like, it was just unreal what we heard. And I was like, you know what? He's an awesome performer, and I bet you he's got a great story. And so I was like, all right, let's bring him on. So it's an honor to have you here because, like I said, I was like, I mean, you really have crafted a great voice in what you have. And so, like, tell me, because one of the things that I read about you, and a little bit you even said it, is 1,000 songs.
Mm-hmm.
How the heck did you remember 1,000 songs in 3 different languages? And I'm like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it blows me away too. I can tell you, I definitely did not start with that many. Again, going back to when I was just kind of starting this and getting my feet wet, I probably had 30 songs, because I was moonlighting. I was working at State Farm during the day, and I would moonlight as a singer at a local Italian spot, where I lived. And this was just like a Friday, Saturday night venture. But they wanted that standards vibe. So Sinatra, Dino, all that kind of stuff. So I started with some of those basic classics from that era. And I had to spread my wings. Eventually those few songs get quite old.
Right, exactly.
And I found that people enjoyed when I ventured out, Marvin Gaye, Al Green, into more of the soulful stuff that I find a little bit more my own speed. And then I was like, okay, I think I got something here. But, honestly, what really helped me was that musical foundation, because though my father and my uncle have a bit of a legacy in the boxing field, they made a name for themselves doing that in their younger years. They also had this doo-wop thing because they grew up in Manhattan in the 50s, singing on the street corners under that street light, doing the whole doo-wop thing. And they always said, till this day, they'll tell you, it's what helped keep them out of trouble. While other guys were going off, getting into drugs and alcohol and all, they were all about singing doo-wop. And so growing up, my brother and I both, we would watch our uncles and my father sing doo-wop music and harmonize a cappella, and it would give me chills. And I very much wanted to do that. So I, of course, did not really know that I would be able to do that kind of thing until I was a little bit older, 12, 13. But I remember specifically being, I'm going to go way back on you now. I remember being in elementary school. This is grade school back in the Bronx where I was raised. And I must have been blabbing away, opening up my big mouth or something. I did something that got me kicked out of the class for about 10 minutes. So I was kind of in like a little dunce type of situation. They put me out in the hallway just to sit so I could just think over what I'm doing, right?
Right.
And these old buildings in the Bronx, these grade school buildings, they're very echoey. And I remember sitting there just kind of humming a tune. I don't remember what it was, but in that hall, it was like a big echo chamber. And I remember whatever I was humming or singing, it gave me chills. And I didn't understand at that time what was really going on. I was getting chills from my own voice.
Wow.
So I had that tone even back then, but I just didn't realize that I had that ability. So it took some time to hone that. But, you know, building up, to answer your question, it took some time to build up to 1,000 songs. One of these days I'm going to count again. I'm sure it's over 1,000 songs. But that doesn't mean that I could just sit here right now and start from song 1 and go all the way down the list and without looking, you know. But I definitely can easily sing over 1,000 songs that I know by heart, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 words skipping me here or there because you got to brush some of them off. But doing this full time now, at this point, we're going on almost 15 years. You can't help but know these songs because you're practicing them all the time. You're performing them all the time. And I'm one that likes to keep things fresh. I want to give my clients a very fresh experience each time, especially for those that have me back. So really learning 1,000 songs for me was one of those things where it just happened organically with time. You know, I don't like things to get stagnant. I need to make sure that I'm having fun too when I'm performing. So I want to make sure the clients are getting a fresh experience. I'm always implementing new songs, or maybe they're new old classic songs, but they're new to the show, you know. And just with time, you know, adding them like baseball cards to the collection, more and more songs each year, so it builds up with time. But for me, man, honestly, like, it goes all the way back to having that foundation of the doo-wop music, watching my family sing all that kind of stuff. And at parties and events, they would slowly start incorporating me, my brother as well, to events to do that kind of thing. And getting our feet wet with that gave me a taste for that kind of vibe, you know? And so it started with doo-wop. I'll blow some older folks away. They're really surprised how many oldies I know.
Oh, wow.
Many times they'll say, man, you got an old soul. You shouldn't have been born like in the 80s, you know, because I know all their music. I don't think I discovered newer music till I probably got my first Walkman in the early 90s.
Oh, wow. So what do
I'm
you
making myself now.
So what is your most requested song? What do you think that is?
Ooh, for those that probably know me, I would say probably some of the Andrea Bocelli stuff, just because it's like one of those drop the mic things. Like, you're not going to believe this guy's going to do this. You know, in fact, I think you even experienced that wedding.
Yeah, that's in Italian, right? You sing that in Italian, right?
Yeah. And I do a few of those.
Okay.
It's unexpected.
Yes. Well, that's the thing, is like, that's what kind of blew me away too. When I heard that, I was like, whoa. I was like, he just sang that in Italian. I was like, so it was cool.
It's funny too, because I'll have people, I just did an event on Saturday where they were asking me, where did you train? I was like, high school, I guess. I don't know. I didn't go anywhere formal for training, but I guess I've always had that voice for it. And I've always been kind of good at emulating voices. I remember even as a little boy, copying a lot of the cartoon characters I'd be watching on TV. I could repeat Bugs Bunny and all these characters. So it's, in a way, just kind of emulating what I'm hearing from these artists that inspire me, and just giving it to the crowd in a way that I think that they'll appreciate, you know? But on Saturday, it was so interesting because there was somebody there from the Sarasota Opera House, and they were like, can you do another one of those opera songs where maybe she could sing with you? I was like, yeah, actually, if she could sing the prayer, that would be epic. Like, well, there won't be a dry eye in the house. And she got up and we did that. And it was just like, it was pretty awesome, you know? And so she turned to me. This was a very humbling thing, because here's somebody who's had that formal training. And she goes, you're amazing. Like, where did you train? I said, I didn't train anywhere, you know? So that was kind of cool to hear from somebody who does the opera stuff a lot, you know? But yeah, I think that's one of the most requested type of songs.
So let's go back. And so, all right, so when obviously it's tough to break into that business, and you were like, okay, so I know you said you were working for like State Farm at the time. How did you, because the biggest thing is like, you know, that's one of the things that I kind of want to talk about, because I mean, our show is about people who hustle and find what they're looking for and how they figured out how to make it work, or right. So you were doing the State Farm thing. When, like, what was it that kind of was like, all right, I'm gonna make this full time, you know, and really just give it my all? What was that like for you?
Great question. You know, for me, I would say that it really started right after my brother's wedding in 2008 is when I was just ready to give it a go full time. Always helps if you're living at home. I have to add, I had just moved back like prodigal son, left North Carolina, came down here. My folks had moved down here like maybe 2 years before me. Mm-hmm. And I was the last one still up there. I was like, I want to be down here with my family. So I shacked up with them. And so that really helped, you know, in the budget and bill scenario. You know, I was able to afford the opportunity for myself to maybe quit the day job and spread my wings on this and give it maybe 6 months to a year to see if it would work. But what inspired me for that was my brother had a huge wedding at a venue in Lakewood Ranch, Florida. And I sang 3 or 4 songs at the wedding just because, you know, it's family and, you know, they wanted to hear me sing. And the owners of the venue happened to be peeking in through the doors near the kitchen. They're like, who is that young man? Find out who he is. We want him here. And that really blew the doors open for what would be a budding career in my business. Little did I know that you never know how things are going to start for you, you know? And for me, it was a huge opportunity because Lakewood Ranch, for those that know, is kind of right near Sarasota, but not actually. And it's a nice area, and they were looking to be like the destination spot for many years there in Lakewood Ranch. And it turned out to be so, because First Fridays, there'd be 1,000 people. I don't know if you had ever experienced it.
I live in Lakewood Ranch.
Well, then you already.
So I live in Lakewood. So are you talking about Main Street?
Main Street.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what it's like now because there's a different venue there that doesn't lend itself to all the dancing and all that we used to have there at Polo Grill. But my gosh, there'd be 1,000 people outside with a band, and that would end around 9:30, and my show would just be beginning inside the Polo Grill. Okay, gotcha. So we would get like at least a third of that crowd to come in and party with me for 3 or 4 hours. So it was like, I need your card, I need your card, I need your card. So rather than paying to advertise, I never had to. I was getting paid to advertise myself. So talk about an awesome platform,
right?
You know, because people could hear me sing, DJ, and visualize, wow, look how he's got 300 people dancing like crazy. He could do this for our daughter's wedding, or he could do this for our corporate event at Ritz-Carlton. So it was a massive, massive platform for me and my business. And I was their number entertainer there for 9 years in a row. Every first Friday, man. Just
That's
building
awesome.
that.
I've been to a couple First Fridays. Now, I don't know when you were doing yours, but like I've been to some First Fridays. Yeah, it's not the same as it was. What they're trying now, it's kind of moved away from there, and there's a new area called Waterside, and Waterside is like the new Main Street. So like I have a feeling eventually that's what that will turn into. It's not there yet, but they're already doing some stuff there. But that's like the new spot in Lakewood Ranch. So, all right. Cool. So let's kind of like, I know you've got some history. I know you've been on some shows and you've done some other stuff. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Sure.
So for me, you know, I got to go back a little bit to explain why I pursued what I did with TV and radio. I got involved in show choir in high school back in North Carolina. I did grow up in the Bronx, but then in my early teens, we moved to North Carolina. So I'm a Yankee that says y'all. But I remember we had this big kind of like spring show that we were going to do. And it was to a sold out crowd in the auditorium, 500 people. And it was like a Broadway review. One of the opening acts is myself coming out to do a solo performance of Singing in the Rain by Gene Kelly. Perhaps sans all the really good tapping, because I wasn't about to try to do all that. But, you know, I had the whole raincoat on, the umbrella, and I'm do, right? The whistle, the whole thing. And I was shaking like a leaf, but I just said, you know what? Just looking at me, and I just felt like, you know, if I just sing to the light, I can get through this. And when it was over, man, that rush of adrenaline that I had just experienced, that feeling I had from having that go by, I was like, I want to do that the rest of my life. That was 1997, I want to say.
Okay.
I was 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
So now you know how old I am. But, you know, it was only a couple years later, what was it, 99, 2000, where a show that I guess, was it Fox or, yeah, I think it was Fox at the time, was giving a tryout for called American Idol. Nobody had heard of this show. Nobody had heard of this guy, Simon Cowell. They quickly found out about him.
Right.
He was a presence, right? And here I was, like millions of others, watching this show and seeing this young girl named Kelly Clarkson win this, and it gave me chills. I was like, I want all of that. You know, I think I have a shot. So fast forward a couple years later, I went back to New York to visit some friends and family. And I also was kind of hitting two birds with one stone because I knew that they were having tryouts for the next season of American Idol. And so I went out there to do that. And it was a very cool experience. You know, for me, it's one of those things where I don't like to use it as a crutch because name dropping that is not a big deal to me. It's not like I made it into the final top 10 or something like that. And I don't like, experience has taught me not to talk about it too much, because what I find is I'll be performing and the word gets around about this idol thing, and people will come up to me and go, I voted for you on the show, when I know that I didn't get to the point where you could vote for me.
Right.
So I know they're trying to be super nice, and I'm just like, thanks for your vote, because I don't want to make them feel like a jerk for lying, you know?
Right.
But I take the positive away from that. That experience, yes, I got far enough to where I needed to quit my job because I had used up all my personal time. So I did get far, but I felt crushed for a few days when it was over. But I said, do you know how far you just got? You passed through 100,000 people. At this point, this was like season 5. In every city they were going to, they were filling stadiums for tryouts. And so to make it to like the final 30 in a single city, that's huge, huge. What they don't show you in the show is a lot of that process, right? Because they'll have you believe when you're watching that show that that entire stadium of kids gets seen by those 3 or 4 celebrity judges. Absolutely not. It takes a whole week to even get to them. Those cats aren't even flying in till the end of the week. You know, this is starting off on like a Monday morning with 90 to 100,000 plus kids.
Wow.
And then you're singing kind of like in a row of like 5 to a line, and you're coming up and it's like boom, boom, thank you. You're getting 20 or 30 seconds. They got to move fast. And you're singing for like the producers of the show, some of the assistant producers. You get through a day or two of those trials, then you go on to the next round, and it's the executive producers, those that really have the say so. And they're trying to determine, will this individual be good for camera, whether bad or good?
Oh,
they're not necessarily saying, oh, you're amazing. Oh, well, that's not true. They're probably telling that person you're amazing, but what they really mean is you're going to be amazing on camera because you're awful. Or they might be saying you're going to be amazing on camera because you're an amazing singer. So that's what they're really looking for, is the worst and the very best, which is why, yes, unfortunately, we see those individuals that are so shocked. Like, what do you mean I'm terrible? Because they've been having this told to them for a week like they're really good. Anyway, be that as it may, for me, I'm glad I was not in that group, but I had something, and it gave me that fever for performing and doing it for myself. And in hindsight, I'm glad that things worked out the way they did. because how many of those, even the winners of American Idol, have gone on to do really, really big things? Very, very few, you know. In fact, some of those that are usually in the last top 10, they end up to have even bigger careers because they're not as tied down to contracts. And so for me, I was able to pave my own way. I didn't have anyone telling me where I needed to be, where I needed to perform, what I needed to sing. I was able to decide that and manifest my own destiny. So that's the hustle right there.
There you go. No, so, you know, I think sometimes everything happens for a reason. And, you know, and it sounds like that's what, you know, you were meant to do, the things that you're doing, you know. And so I know, now let's fast forward a little bit more. So you went through this and you're creating your own thing. So if you were like mentoring someone, what advice would you give to someone that's going through sort of the process? Like, you know, kind of like give you a little bit of advice. Like, you know, you've been through this, you struggle through this, you know?
Sure. That's a great question that I would definitely love to answer for those that are listening and are interested in perhaps having a career in music in some way. I would say learn as much as you can. If you're wanting to be a singer, sing as much as you can. I mean, we've all heard an actor acts, a singer sings, a writer writes. Get in those 10,000 hours, man. Do as much as you can. Soak it, be a sponge, soak it all in. Before I started my business, and even the first few years of starting my business, I was always on YouTube every night watching countless videos on DJing, production work, performing, contracts, all those kind of things, so that I could learn from others that have been doing it, you know, so much longer than I had at the time. And, you know, when you can learn from your peers and be humble enough to say, I can learn something from this individual, I can take something from this business, I can observe something from that entertainer, then you're going to make yourself better. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, I would say you should always have a place to cut your teeth. For me, it was a couple of those restaurants, like that Italian restaurant, several other places where in a smaller setting, you can try things out and figure out what people respond best to. You can find out what your strengths are. You can learn to channel that nervous energy that you always get when you're about to get on a microphone. Learn how to channel that into positive energy that makes you perform better. So case in point, I did a huge concert on Friday, which was a really special night. They literally closed down Main Street of Sarasota downtown. And my guitarist and I headlined this concert for 2,000 people. You know, the mayor was there, commissioner was there. They call it Fresh Fridays. It's trying something new now to bring some more tourism down there. And it was very special. But I had a friend ask me the night before, he goes, man, are you nervous? Are you nervous about tomorrow night? And I said, well, no, man. I mean, I'm always nervous. Whether it's 30 people or 30,000 people, I'm going to be nervous, but not nervous in the sense of like I'm shaking and my voice is going to be trembling. It's a anxious energy is how I guess I could describe it. Like you just can't wait to get out there, and the nervousness is really just caring about making sure that you're doing good. And I even told him, I said, I don't ever not want to be a little nervous, because if that happens, when that day comes, that means I stop caring. Right. That I don't really care about what I'm doing. And I never want that to happen. I always want to care of the quality of music that I'm putting out, the quality and caliber performance that I'm putting out there. So I hope there's always a little bit of nervousness. So definitely have an area, talk to somebody at a bar or a cafe. Cafe is a great idea because they usually have very small little venues, 5, 10, 15 people. Maybe you're an acoustic performer and you just have a couple songs, whether they're covers or originals. Do that. Have a place where you can invite family and friends. Maybe if you're not ready for that, play at your home, invite a couple family members over and say, what do you think? You know, granted, keep in mind that they're probably going to give you the best case scenario because they care about you. But it's a great way to start. And then you spread your wings a little bit more, start inviting friends, and then spread a little bit more, start singing in front of complete strangers, because then you're going to get the real the real feedback, right? You know, they're going to give it to you for real.
Be like, oh.
And you need that. You need that.
So what's the most that you sang in front of? I'm assuming maybe it was the American Idol thing, the biggest group you sang in front of, or?
Ooh, that's tough. I would say, honestly, no. Because a lot of those things are happening in closed door sessions, even though there may be cameras where I was on the television screen for a few seconds in front of millions of people. In the room or in person live, the most I've done is about maybe 6,000. Okay. You know, I used to do these things for not 104.7, the oldie station. Is it 106.5? I forget. But out there, Chasco Fiesta is what they call it, off of 19. Headed down toward Port Richey area. For a number of years, the general manager, I mean, he was a big fan of what I did. Funny, because I had given him a demo CD of me singing everything from the 50s to now. And a year later, I get a call. And he goes, "Is this Jonathan?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Hey, listen, man, I'm the general manager. I think you had given me your CD. I have to apologize." He says, "Is this you singing on this CD?" I said, "Yes, sir, it is." He goes, "I'm so sorry. It took me a year to get back to you. You just got to understand, everywhere I go, somebody's shoving something in my face. And your CD has been on a dusty, like, mountain of CD demos. But I only just now took a listen to this. If this is you singing all these different artists, Elvis, Al Green, Marvin Gaye, Frankie Valli, like, I need to talk to you." So he had me at the radio station. We talked. And we started working together. And once a year in Port Richey, they have this big festival that lasts about 10 days called Chasco Fiesta. And one night out of that whole 10 days, they have a big doo-wop oldies concert hosted by the radio station. And so for a number of years, I had the privilege of opening up for some of the biggest doo-wop legendary acts that are still doing their thing. And here I am, little old me. I mean, I don't have a record deal, nothing like that. I'm just a full-time entertainer, still budding his wings at the time. And he'd have me out there in front of 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people. And what was so interesting was that the comments I got was that the response, oftentimes, not that it's, you know, I'm not looking for any type of accolades like this, but the response was bigger for me sometimes than even the headliners, because God bless them, these guys were in their mid 70s, right? You know, and they weren't bringing that same energy that they once did because they can't. But, you know, they're icons. So you got to have them as the headliners, right? So it was an honor for me to open for these individuals. But what they found was I was able to sing like Elvis and move like Elvis. I was able to, you know, perform, and people got a rise out of that. So to have 4,000 or 5,000 people on their feet from what just one guy was doing, it's quite a heck of a rush, man. So it was really cool.
That's awesome. What's your favorite song? What do you think your favorite song is to sing? Do you have one?
Well, favorite song to sing and my favorite song are two different things. When it comes to favorite songs to sing, just about anything from Marvin Gaye is incredible to sing and perform. I love that. I am particularly fond of all things 80s. I love a lot of 80s music. Big fan of stuff by like George Michael. I would say George Michael's in probably my top 5. His song Careless Whisper is probably in my top 5 most favorite songs of all time. That's one of my most favorite songs to sing. But my most favorite song, depending on the day of the week, it's a close tie between Billie Jean and Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears.
Oh, wow.
I'm
both.
Yeah. Big fans of both.
We're not far in age, so like we like a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah, man. It's good music. 80s, man. I mean, 80s films, 80s music. You can't go 80s games.
It's funny. It's like in my truck, I still, because I have the 80s preset on my truck, and I always like find myself when I'm even going through music. I always land on 80s, and I was like all the time. And I was like, it's a different sound. You just don't hear that sound anymore.
No.
You know, and that's the thing. It does. I mean, I know it brings me back to like my youth and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's just like, you just don't hear music like that anymore.
No, you don't. And it makes it that much more challenging for me as a seasoned performer / DJ, because I have to know the current stuff. But I think that what makes me a good entertainer is usually when I'm performing music I love. So it's kind of hard to fake it, to have to play too much stuff I don't love. But you just have to look a little bit harder. There's still great music being put out. Bruno Mars is an incredible artist. The collaboration that he's doing with Anderson .Paak, that Silk Sonic album, is amazing. That is pure fire.
But he's got that 80s sound, though, if you think about it.
The 80s sound, and the Silk Sonic is like 70s with Bootsy Collins on it. It's funky. It's amazing. So you just got to look a little bit harder, but it's there. But I'm with you, man. All things 80s for me all day, every day. And I just can't help but laugh because same thing. I'll go to XM and I'm always on the 80s channel. And I'm like, look at you, son of a gun. You used to always criticize your dad because he would never change Cousin Brucey with the oldies. And now here you are all the time with the 80s. And the kids are like, Daddy, can you put it on the Pulse station? Can you put on the new stuff? I'm doing the same exact thing.
I know. I'm doing the same thing as my parents. And I'm like, what's funny is then sometimes I even find myself listening to what my parents listened to, because it does kind of reminisce about their music and brings back memories of those. And you're like, oh, I would never. And then now you're like, actually, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So what's up next? So what's the big thing coming up next for you?
Gosh, I don't know. Honestly, right now, I'm just so appreciative to stay busy, because after what everyone has experienced with COVID, it was a very humbling experience, man. I mean, I remember vividly in early March of 2020, I had just come back to the States from what was one of the biggest events of my career. I was flown to Cabo, Mexico. And let's just say I would have paid for that experience, and yet I got paid to do it. I was flying high. I got home. I said to the wife, I said, honey, I'm raising my prices. That's it. I'm Mr. International like Pitbull now. No stopping my career now. And the next week was March 15th. COVID hit, and I lost everything for 9 months.
That's tough.
So to be able to say now that the floodgates have opened, to say now that I don't have a weekend open till like late May, that is a blessing, man. I've been going hard since like November of last year, because everybody's like, all the cancellations, all the postponements, it's all coming back, man. People are getting married. People are throwing parties. People are having concerts and events. And I'm so thrilled to be getting back to what I love to do, man. So it's a blessing. It's just all bookings right now, man. And it's exciting that I'm getting back to travel again. Typically I have, let's just say a few, between 3, 4, 5, 6 a year where I'm flying out of the state, but the way things are looking, it appears like that's going to happen a little bit more. And I have to gauge that, because it's not just me anymore. I've got children, and I only have a finite amount of weekends that they'll still be at home. And I want to make sure that I get in that quality time with them while they're young, because you just can't get that time back. So I have to, at this point, at this stage in my life and in my career, I have to gauge whether it's feasible to go out and work and make some money, or is it worth just staying home and getting in some more memories with them. So sometimes you get a call and somebody showers that praise with me, and I saw you in 2000 and whatever, and you did this wedding, you were incredible. Can you come do my kid's wedding in Ohio or wherever the case is, right? I've been to Ohio, I think now like 5 times, but it's nice, but I have to give a price to where And this is something else that came with that business experience along the way. I was way too cheap when I started, but I was also learning.
Right.
But now I give out a price. If it's out of state, I'm giving a price to where if I get it, I go, yes, absolutely. And I can block off 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, to fly out, do the event the next day, fly back in. And I feel like it was worth it to give up that time to come home to the family with a fat check. Whereas if they say no, then I'm like, well, no skin off my nose. I wouldn't mind being at home with the family anyway. You know, you have to charge accordingly. So
that's the thing. It's like, you know, I mean, family, it's like, I think we gotta, you can't just take everything, because family is the most important thing in a lot of things we do, right? You know, and my kids are grown, so like, even though we're about the same, I actually have a 28-year-old and I've got a 24-year-old, and so it's like, you know, I mean, my kids are grown, but like, you just never get that time back. And, you know, and now they're on their own, they live by themselves. And, you know, and that's the thing, is like, before you know it, it will go, and you'll be like kicking yourself, be like, I should have made more time, or, you know, but like, the thing is, like you said, all right, well, if you want me, this is what it's going to cost you. And, you know, and if it's too much, then it's too much. But at least this way, like you said, all right, but I can take that nice fat paycheck and take my family on a nice vacation, or I can spend the time with them, or whatever, you know. And I think sometimes we forget about, no, it can't always just be about work. Sometimes you got to stop and think. So I appreciate you being on. I mean, you're an awesome singer. I mean, it was, like I said, I mean, when I heard you over there, I was like, it was just crazy how good you are. And it's like, I wish I would have actually met you a little bit sooner, because I just had a party for my realtors about 3 weeks ago. It was like 2 weeks before I met you, and I was like, damn, he would have been good on there. I was like, I would have had him. And it's actually we had it at what's the Polo place, but it's Grove now. And we had it at Grove, and I was like,
I'm there this weekend.
You're there this weekend. So are you just there singing this weekend, or is it just
there's what's the event now? Meals on Wheels actually has an event. Forgive me. It's the weekend after next. Yeah. So yeah, they have a big event, fundraiser for them on the 26th.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll be back at Grove. I did Grove's grand opening.
Did you?
So it's cool that they recognize, hey, let's get the OG guy who has a presence in Lakewood Ranch, but they just don't have that space anymore. You know, Polo Grill used to have a clearing with a nice tile dance floor, and we would rock the roof off that place on First Fridays, and now it's filled with tables for more dining, and I get it, you know, it's dollars and cents, but for me, you know, I need to find a place always where I can, and even now, so people who are listening that are wanting to do this, I'll say again, always have a place to kind of have like a home base where you can try new things and make sure that you're staying fresh. So I have a partnership now with Paul Madison. God bless him. You know, he was like, absolutely, Jonathan, I want to have you on. When I talked to him in the middle of COVID, I said, you know, I don't have a place right now where I can invite people to come hear me. And that's an important facet of my business, because you can tell somebody you can sing, but when they hear me, they go, oh, he can sing. You know,
that's what I said.
Oh, look how he's young dancing. You know, it's a different thing.
Absolutely.
So rather than just talking it, I'd rather walk the walk, let them see it, and then they ask for the contract, you know? So on Wednesday nights, doing that at Madison's and some of his locations is a big boon to me, to get back out there, try new songs, interact with the crowd, throw business cards out. And I always encourage people to continue to do that, regardless of where you are in your career, you know, and continue pursuing it. Don't feel like if you don't have a record deal, that's the end of the story for you. You can pave your own way. I'm a testament to that. God bless, you know, everyone who you know, wants to strive for the stars and all, but I've got my stars. I'm very content with what I have. I call my own shots. I decide which gigs I'm going to take and which I'm not. Nobody tells me what to do, and I can spend the time with the family when I want. In fact, I don't envy most entertainers. I used to, but I don't, because, you know, oftentimes what do we see? Many of them can't have families, or they can't hold on to their relationships because they're always on the road.
Exactly.
And
they have no life.
They have no life. I mean, just like that song, Turn the Page, that dude is always on the road, man. And I don't envy that. I like to be able to have the option to spend quality time at home with the family. And man, it's been a wild ride, and look forward to continue doing that for people. So
how often do you? So I know you're doing the Madison thing, but when is that? And or is that another one coming up, or?
Thanks, shameless plug time, right?
Yep.
So Wednesday night, doing that every Wednesday. So right now, what we're doing, we're alternating between two of the Madison locations. So last week I was at City Grill downtown Sarasota. This Wednesday, then I'll be at the Bradenton Riverwalk location. Okay. It's right by the water there. Mm-hmm. And so it just goes back and forth. So then that means the week after I'll be back to City Grill downtown. So every other Wednesday I'm in downtown Sarasota.
Do they shut down Main Street when they do this? When you're down there, or where is it, or no?
No, what's great about Madison's is they're known for having a large open patio.
Yep, I've been there.
So they've got a stage. They have live music every night of the week. Paul, I'm giving you a free plug. I hope you appreciate it. All his locations have big patios and a stage with live music every night of the week. So it lends itself to that whole vibe. And what's great, particularly about the City Grill location, is you're literally on the main square of Main Street. So when I'm singing, especially if I'm doing something like opera or very powerful vocal, people are coming off the streets and coming inside because they're like, listen to this guy. Wow.
I'm sure.
So I'm
sure it's helping Paul out there because they hear your voice and they're bringing them in and they're spending money.
they're very happy. So we have a great partnership right now. It's good.
That's good. Awesome. Yeah, I got to meet him that night too at the wedding. So that's how I never met him before.
That's right. Yeah, he's a good guy.
He is a good guy. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate everything, and we'll be in touch.
Hey, I appreciate the time. Chris, thanks so much.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate it.